welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast, the show that keeps you up to date with the cutting-edge trends in the world of technology and business and beyond. And I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and today we're going to delve into the burning issues in cybersecurity with Deryck Mitchelson, Field CISO at Checkpoint Software. And I invited him on after reading that last year alone, organisations lost over $2.7 billion to email fraud, making email security compromises among the costliest in cybercrime. So in a landscape where cyberattacks continue to increase and social-political tensions such as the Russia and Ukraine war add complexity, it's clear that the traditional approach to cybersecurity is no longer enough, and it's time to consider cyber resilience, aiming to build a fortified infrastructure of sorts that can anticipate and withstand and recover from cyber attacks. So I've invited Deryck on the podcast today to discuss why CISOs need to view email as a significant risk, how proper email security can actually cut costs, and talk about some of the steps organisations can take to get to that ideal utopia of greater resilience. And he's also going to share a little bit of his work at Checkpoint Software and provide his perspective on how to effectively measure and build cyber resilience. So buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening in the world, it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to Dundee in Scotland, where Deryck is waiting to talk with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Deryck. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, Deryck Mitchelson. So I'm one of the global CISOs here at Checkpoint, a small team that spend most of the time working with customers, working with clients around their strategies, development needs. This small team, we've all come from working in industry. So most of us have been at Checkpoint a year or two, quite a young team, and we spend all of our time trying to overlay our level of expertise into customer problems.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the show today. And I think it was after reading that you said that organisations lost over $2.7 billion in email fraud alone last year. I had to get you on the show to talk about this. And considering the modern tools and resources available, I've got to ask, why do you think such costly compromises continue to happen? Because it feels like we've been talking about this for decades, doesn't it?
That was the context of the article that I wrote, which is why are we still talking about it?
Yeah.
That's what I struggle with. It's email security is such an easy thing to target. That's why we're still seeing it. It's a thing, it tends to be very much targeted at the C-suite. It's targeted at CFOs, CEOs, particularly the spear phishing that we're absolutely seeing. Business email compromise, whereby they're trying to get money transferred. I actually sat in an organisation about 7-8 years ago where it happened as well. I sat there and my CFO would transfer money from an account in the UK to an account in the US. If there had been enough money in the account, he phoned up to say, we can't make this transaction because we don't have enough money sitting within the accounts within the UK to get told that I've got no idea what you're talking about. It's such an easy thing to do. It's very personable. It's very believable. And that's why we do it. You don't need to have a level of complication or a level of expertise to carry an email attack.
And I think traditionally we've all seen poorly written emails in broken English, and that made it quite easy to spot a lot of them. But of course, with things like ChatGPT now, it's never been easier to make an attack like that. And despite these apparent risks, though, and the increase in them, why aren't CISOs viewing email security as a crucial part of that organisational risk management strategy, or are they? I'm curious what you're seeing here.
I think they do have it built into their overall program. I just think that what they're not doing is they're not able to manage the efficacy of what they've got in place. They struggle with understanding, is what they've installed giving them that level of protection that the company needs? And that's what they're struggling with. So they've all got a solution of some point. If they're working in the Google space, then they might have default GCP email protection that's been switched on there. They could have Office 365 Defender switched on as well. Although what I find is that these security controls don't tend to give you the best level of protection. It's still strength and depth, security and depth, layer security, which is why I talk to organizations saying, great, go native, take everything you can get from a native organization that gives you your security, but overlay on top of that a best of breed, belt and braces type approach, something that might catch everything that gets missed. That's the right approach to do it. But I'm not really seeing enough organizations doing that. They definitely are saying, we've actually bought a service, the service is giving us email security, so we will be covered until they get the business email compromised, and then they start looking to say, okay, maybe that wasn't as good as what we need it to be. So I do think it's a few things. Perhaps there's a small amount of over-trust in service providers, perhaps there's a small amount of complacency based in there as well, but given it's so easy and the amount of disruption it makes to business, both from a resilience point of view and a commercial point of view, I think it should be a top priority.
And you mentioned spear phishing a moment ago, and I think it's so easy now to see that when a CEO is out of town at a tech conference on his LinkedIn update or her LinkedIn update, and then we can track down the finance director using the same platform, then even get the email domains from a company website. So easy. So I think a lot of people are waking up to this, but can you shed some light on how having a robust email security can also cut costs for organizations too?
Absolutely can. I mean, not just does it cut the risk of having that email compromised, so it reduces that payout or reduces the money that gets transferred. What it can do, it can make your email security operationally much more efficient than what it is. I found in organizations I've worked previously, you can take out up to 20% of your security operational overhead by having really good email security in place that catches all the phishing, that does proper quarantine, that's got a low amount of false positives, so that what it's actually doing is it's only interacting with the emails that are a threat. And the good business emails that we want to be working with are not a problem. That tends to be the overhead that we see within security teams. A lot of times we'll get emails saying, or we'll get a phone call to the help desk saying, can you unquarantine this message? We'll have a look at it and we'll go, I don't know why that's been quarantined, that is actually safe. Or we'll get another request saying, I've got this email and I think it's not safe, so we'll have to go and investigate and say, is this an issue? Who else has got this email? If you can bring really good automated email security in that can catch, for example, a minimum 99% of all the threats, then I think the security teams can get on with doing their day jobs. And at that point, there's less worry about email security than there is at the moment.
And for any business leader that's listening to our conversation today, maybe getting that light bulb moment, in terms of improving things like organizational resilience, what role does automating email security play? And are there any steps you might be able to recommend to organizations on how they can, what steps they can take going forward in this regard?
Yeah, the first thing I would suggest is that I tend not to like to speak about products, but the organisation I'm working with at Checkpoint, we've got a really good email security product that we make available to organisations. Say, try this product, run it for 14 days, have a look, and it will tell you exactly what your level of risk is from email compromise. And use that to then generate a business case, take that to your board to actually show them examples of where there's targeted phishing that's getting missed by the native solutions that you've got in place. This is the level of malware that's coming in, or the level of links that are being clicked on that are being missed. Use that to generate your business case. Take that up to the board so your board understands what this means in risk-based terms for them, for the resiliency of the organisation. And I think at that point, it's an easy conversation. I don't know any organisation I speak to when you've had that conversation that don't want to say, we need to do more around this. This is actually going to make us much more resilient. And it's the automation of systems like the ones I'm talking about that make the big difference. You don't want to be dealing and trying to actually articulate and actually do threat management, to try and do threat hunting around emails that are coming in, because there's so many emails come across the internet now. Every organisation gets flooded. I sit here in the morning, I get flooded by emails. And the overhead for an organisation doing email management is just far too high.
And of course, cybersecurity is undoubtedly a significant challenge for many organisations. And the journey we've all been on, I mean, a decade ago, we almost trusted everything within a network and distrusted anything outside of the office. But of course, now people work on any device, any network location at any time, and zero trust is a big thing now. But can you elaborate on the concept of cyber resilience and this move away from traditional approaches to cybersecurity?
Yes, it's what everyone wants to be doing. In my previous roles before Checkpoint, we started to move in that direction of giving the right access to the right data at the right time. So I came from a healthcare background directly into Checkpoint, and we were aware there was a lot of the consultants were wanting to do things in the evening. They were wanting to have a look at medical records, and without us putting in place proper security systems that allowed them to do this. What they would then do is they would then send themselves emails, for example, to personal email accounts. So they had some medical data sitting within Hotmail, Gmail accounts, so they could get on with their work. And I didn't blame them. I blamed us for saying we've not given them the right tooling. We need to pivot very much to a world where everyone, no matter what time, where, from wherever, and what device can get access to what they want to do. That plays in nicely to what we talk about with zero trust, so that we don't trust any transaction. And what we need to do is we need to re-authenticate and make sure that every transaction only gets through if it is trusted. So it's zero trust by default. Trust it by checking the device, checking the certificate, checking the user, the multi-factor authentication. That's what zero trust is all about. And it's also moving to this secure service edge world whereby we don't need to be having VPN clients on things. We can access services, and the services are able to understand through our identity and access management who we are and give us access. So if we move to that world, it should be much more secure. But even still, on top of that world, if we're accessing Gmail accounts and Office 365 accounts from personal devices, that still brings in a level of risk, and we just need to be aware of that.
And as an ex-IT guy, I've done my fair bit of firefighting and reacting to problems and all those nasty P1 incidents inside an organisation. But of course, we're now exploring a more proactive rather than reactive approach in IT. And I've read that you've talked previously about adopting a prevention-first approach to cyber resilience. So how does that strategy work in practical terms, and what benefits does it bring to organisations? Anything you can share there?
It's a mindset change, Neil. That's what that very much is. It's pivoting your security strategy from building a defensive strategy to building a strategy where you're actually stopping the attackers from actually coming in. And it's always saying, what can we do to actually build up that preventive capability? So, for example, when I talked about email security, I would ideally want to put in place solutions where the email's not actually getting into the inbox. And what you can do by then is you minimize the risk of that threat. And that's very much what Checkpoint pushes forward with its email product, where it's if the email doesn't get in the inbox, then the email doesn't have seconds or minutes to be scanned to see if it's safe before it interacts and does any damage. And it's very much that preventative mindset, but you need to take that across everything. You need to take that across your perimeter security so that you're preventing the breach. That may well be using some of the best machine learning or AI technologies so that it can spot a zero-day and it can interact and stop that zero-day attack before that zero-day attack compromises the business. Once it compromises, I've been in the place of managing some large incidents before, and these incidents cost multi-millions of pounds in order to try and remediate from it. So it's that preventative mindset is just making sure that you do everything you can to actually stop that attacker from getting in. Very difficult to be 100% certain what you're doing, but as I always say when I'm building a security program, Neil, what you want to do is you want to make it as difficult as possible for the threat actors to target you. And because what they will do is they will then go off and target someone else, because that's very much what they're like. They don't like that complexity. They don't like the difficult tasks of trying to breach somebody that's got lots of preventative security in place. They want to have that easy attack. Easy attack vector might be that email vector, or it could be supply chain.
And after doing a little research on you before you came on the podcast today, I also read that you're a strong advocate for the use of comprehensive, consolidated and collaborative measures in cybersecurity. So just to bring that to life a little, can you explain this in more detail and again, maybe provide a few examples of how they can be implemented too?
This for me is an absolutely no-brainer for anyone listening to the podcast, is what they can do to advance their security strategy. Not just security in depth, but we need to be looking at a platform approach to security. And that, when I talk about consolidation, that's what I'm talking about doing. To let you understand what a platform security approach means, it means building the same level of AI-based threat intelligence behind everything that you've got sitting within your security portfolio. To bring that to life, what that would mean is, for example, if a zero-day piece of malware is spotted across a firewall or a laptop or a mobile phone across somewhere within your business, you want basically that to be analysed to understand what that level of risk is. If that risk is seen to be a business risk through a risk scoring exercise through AI, you then want that same platform approach to protect all your firewalls, all your gateways, all your cloud devices, all your cloud workloads, all your emails that are coming in, all your mobile devices, all your laptops. So you want that same level of protection across everything. You can't get that unless you go with a consolidated platform approach, because what you will get is you will get endpoint devices like mobile phones or laptops that don't necessarily speak and do the same language as what you've got running within your cloud. Or your cloud won't be understanding what's going on within the context of your firewalls and your gateways that are protecting your perimeter. So you need that same level of common security language, which is threat intelligence, running across everything. Now, if you move forward in that way, what you can understand is that you've got a much more end-to-end visibility. You shouldn't be missing anything. The level of false positives go down. And if you've got a weakness anywhere, then that weakness gets shored up everywhere across your infrastructure. That's got to be where we want to be. Also, it can save you money. If you go and actually go consolidated rather than lots of off-the-shelf best of breed, I think you'll save yourself normally about 20 to 25% of your security spend. So it brings benefits all over.
Fantastic advice. And somehow we are only 4 months away from 2024. So if we were to dare to look ahead a little, how do you think organisations can better prepare for the evolving threat landscape in a world of AI everywhere? And also, what role does Checkpoint software play in helping your clients and customers achieve this ideal destination too?
So Checkpoint are an AI company. We've been working in AI for nearly 30 years. AI sits right at the heart of all the threat intelligence I talked about that sits and protects every one of our products and customers. They do need to understand what the level of AI threat is. The most simple terms, it's making sure that you're not losing any data. So it's that data loss prevention of PII that people may be sticking into ChatGPT. We talked about AI also being used for much better targeted phishing attacks. AI can be used for looking at compromises or vulnerabilities. We've got a lot of vulnerabilities going on at the moment across our infrastructure with a lot of different vendors, and AI definitely will play into that as well. AI can actually scan at the moment, have a look at what's happening with service sites like Shodan that shows where vulnerabilities are. AI can actually help them create the playbooks that will actually go and target these things. So I think from a security and business point of view, we need to be much more on the front foot as to what this threat actually does mean. And it's not just hype, it is a definite increased threat from this. And then what I would suggest is work with the vendors, work with the partners that you've got to help them help you understand what you can do to mitigate that level of threat. Because when I was in the role, I leant heavily on Microsoft, I leant heavily on my partner network from Capgemini, KPMG, Checkpoint was one of my major suppliers as well. I leant on all them to say, how can I get better at what I'm doing? How can I enhance my program? And that's what I think. Organisations should be doing. Reach out to specialists to say, this is a real threat. What should we do? Is there something more we can get from the install base we've got that's going to protect us? Have we got to get something else that's in? Have we got to change tact? And again, as we push more towards the cloud, Neil, that becomes a bigger risk as well. That whole landscape we're trying to protect becomes much bigger than where it's just sitting within that contained data centre. So definitely we need to have expertise helping us.
Well, I love chatting with you today. We've talked about so many serious and important topics around cybersecurity and cyber resilience, but I always like to leave everyone listening on somewhat of a light-hearted note. And as someone that's in the world of tech, I suspect you had to put on a big pair of noise-cancelling earphones now and again. Now, I've got a Spotify playlist that I always ask my guests to add a song, something that maybe inspired them, means something to them, or just helps them get their head in the zone. So all I'm going to ask you before you go is, what song would you like to leave us with and why?
Love to leave you with Under Pressure from Queen and David Bowie. Brilliant song, great bass lines, great rhythm that runs all the way through it, and two iconic figures within the music industry across in the UK. So when you get David Bowie, Freddie Mercury working on a track with the musicianship you get from the band of Queen, it's absolutely amazing. I think also in the world I work in cybersecurity, having a track that talks about working under pressure, delivering, succeeding under pressure, what it means, it's always my go-to track that buoys me up at the end of the week and gives me the energy to continue pushing. So that's what I'd love to do.
Dang, 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 da, da, dang, dang.
Brilliant.
That was your cue to sing there, Doug. I'll let you off on this occasion.
No, I'm not going to be doing any singing. I do play in a bit of a band, so I might be doing some singing tomorrow night. But for anybody who wants to have a listen to it, just listen to the start of that track. It just pulls you straight in.
Awesome. And about your band, now you've mentioned it, so what kind of music do you play, and is there a story behind that?
There's not to be a story behind it. I do quite a few things that are different from my day-to-day work, and I think, again, it's great to have that, something that you can break away from the pressures of what you're doing. So I've played in a band for many years. I'm based up in Scotland, so at the moment it tends to be wedding season, so we're playing a lot of weddings, and we're doing a lot of covers, some Queen numbers. We do some Scottish Ceilidh dancing music as well. So we do a mixture of stuff because people up here like to party at weddings and partake in all the festivities that go around that. So I'll be doing that tomorrow night down in a place called Peebles next to the Scottish borders.
You got to be careful what you say on here. You did say you do a few Queen numbers, so take it away, Deryck. But seriously, for anyone listening that just wants to find out more about Checkpoint software, the work you do, maybe even see your band live or connect with your team, where would you like to point everyone listening to today?
Absolutely. Thank you. So, obviously, Checkpoint, you can find Checkpoint anywhere on the website. Checkpoint, we talk about the 3 C's of Checkpoint. Have a look at that, what that means for your organisation. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I've got this strange spelling of my name, Deryck, that means I'm absolutely unique if you go looking for me in Google. And if you do that and have a look at Cutting Edge Ceilidh Band as well, you can maybe bring up 1 or 2 tracks and see what we do. But that's what I'd offer. But it's been brilliant to join you today, Neil.
You too, my friend. And I think we started with a very serious topic there of email security compromises are among the costliest in cyber with, I think, as we said at the very beginning, 2.7 billion lost in email fraud. But what I loved about chatting with you was not just hearing about your insights, but also practical steps that organizations can take to improve their resilience, such as automating email security. So I urge anyone listening to check out what you're doing at Checkpoint Software. And you even had a chance to leave us with a cracking tune with an awesome bass line too. But more than anything, thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you.
So a big thank you to Deryck from Checkpoint Software for sharing his insights into the world of cybersecurity. And I think today we covered the importance of robust email security and also the need for a proactive and comprehensive approach to cybersecurity, but ultimately how cyber resilience is what plays that crucial role in our modern interconnected world. And as we learned from Deryck there, tackling this ever-increasing volume of cyber threats calls for an approach that goes beyond just preventing and detecting attacks. Adopting cyber resilience strategies, that is what allows organisations to anticipate, withstand and recover from cyber attacks that are protecting critical assets, all while maintaining essential operations at the same time too. But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. techblogwriter@outlook.com if you want to email me, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Threads. Just look for @NeilC.Hughes. I'm nice and easy to find there. But that's it for today's episode. We will continue to explore the latest trends and developments in the tech and business world. But until then, keep thinking about how you can leverage technology to make your world safer and more efficient. So a big thank you as always for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.